Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. When our OP arrived at work, he was greeted with the words, "You're trespassing. I'm calling the police." Interesting way to start the day, isn't it? But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Now I don't even want a job anymore. I used to work for a temporary to hire labor company. They would text me my job assignment to various locations around the city. I received a text the night before and agreed to go. The next morning, I was there a half hour early. I drove into the apartment complex and parked roughly 100 yards or 91 meters from the front gate. I ate my breakfast and prepared for work. I walked to the front gate where the leasing office was and I knocked on the door. It was open, so I walked in. An elderly European lady approached me and asked, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm with X company and I was requested as a porter to help with the property grounds." Angrily, she replied, "Why are you in this office?" I responded, "Because I always come to the leasing office to find the crew boss." She said, "I don't know anything about you or your company. This is the first I've heard about it." And again she asked me, "Why are you in this office?" I had enough of her crap and said, "Because I'm an idiot," and decided to come to the office to report to work. I walked out and waited outside for the crew boss while she threatened to call the police. I thought, F it, and decided to leave. I walked into the gates to get my car and she followed me while screaming, "You're trespassing! I'm calling the police!" I screamed back, "I'm getting my car, lady!" She screamed, "You don't have a car!" I answered as I pointed, "It's right there!" I kept walking and I noticed some dudes in maintenance uniforms chatting by their vehicles. I figured a fight was about to happen, but I was no F's given because my car was on their property and I wasn't leaving without it. They let me pass as this lady was screaming about how she was going to call the cops. When I unlocked my vehicle and started the engine, all I heard were crickets. That goofy clown had nothing to say. As I drove out, my car was flanked by her and my would-be co-workers. I looked her in the eye and flipped her the bird. Again, I was prepared to get jumped. She said, "Get out of here," and I drove off. I called the temp agency when I got home, and they offered to dispatch me to a new location. I ate a breakfast burrito and got drunk instead. And our second story. Maybe I speak Chinese, maybe I don't. Be careful what you say. I'll start by admitting I know only 2 words of Chinese that didn't come off a menu. I can't even tell you what dialect they're from. Backstory. My wife and I are fond of our local Chinese restaurant and eat there once a month or so. It's owned by the same family that opened it 25 years ago, so we're familiar faces when we come in. They remember our drinks, etc., and make small talk. One night, I was joking around with our waitress and said "thank you" in Spanish. She got the joke and taught me how to say "thank you" and "you're welcome" in Chinese. The very next day at work, I had to run a service call to a place run by a young Chinese couple. The whole time I worked, they stood a few feet behind me talking and occasionally giggling. Whenever I glanced back, they would look away and get quiet for a few moments. Now, I'm not usually one of those guys who minds when someone watches them work. I usually enjoy curious customers, but this is enough to make anyone wonder what's going on. I ran out to the truck for something and checked to make sure I didn't have a hole in my pants or something similarly embarrassing. Nope, nothing wrong. When I come back in, they stop what they're doing, take up the same position, and start talking and giggling again. Okay, by now I'm wondering to myself if they've never seen an overweight guy work before or what. If they've been anywhere else in the building or even a little farther away, I probably wouldn't have felt so weird about it. This goes on for about an hour total. When I got done, I loaded up and hopped in my truck to fill out the paperwork. Just as I'm finishing, it starts to rain, so I pull right up close to the door and went in to get a signature. He signs off, and just as I'm getting back in my truck, the lady makes a slight bow and says, "Thank you" in English. In a glorious moment that I will forever cherish, that little lesson in Chinese from the previous night popped into my head at just the right moment. I returned her bow, flashed a grin, and said, "You're welcome," in Chinese. They seemed startled and glanced at each other, looking more than a little embarrassed. I wasted no time getting in my truck and managed to pull away before either one of them thought to question me. I still don't have a clue what they were giggling about, but I made them think I did. Epilogue. A couple weeks later, my wife and I went back to our favorite Chinese restaurant. The girl who usually serves us probably wondered why her tip was so much nicer than usual. It'd be a funny twist if the waitress taught you the wrong words, something rude, for example. Still would elicit the same reaction. And our next story. Don't piss off a neighbor who gets up early. The people in an apartment below decided to throw a party until 5 a.m. Highlights include watching a guy pee in our front garden, waking up to the bass line from Eminem's Cleaning Out My Closet at 3 a.m., being told to F off when I knocked on their door to ask them to turn it down for the second time, the lovely smell of cheap tequila and cigarettes wafting up into our bedroom all night, dodging broken liquor bottles and sticky Captain and Coke on the sidewalk the next day. Oh, and did I mention my wife is pregnant? Her sleep schedule's already messed up enough, so 3 hours of sleep Friday night and morning sickness made her a pleasant person to be around. One of the tenants told me that she would be coming around the next day to apologize to the neighbors, but she was pretty hammered at the time, so I doubt she remembered it. You know that feeling when you're not tired enough to take a long nap, but too tired to really be motivated to do much? Yeah, that sucks. So my wife and I decided to chill on the beach the next day after work. It was summer in Australia. Had a fantastic time and almost forgot about our neighbors. Almost. The next morning, Sunday, I was up at my usual time of about 5:30 to 6 a.m. I made myself a nice cup of coffee and remembered that my neighbors had something they wanted to talk about. I went downstairs and knocked on their door at 6:30 a.m. It took a few knocks, but one of the girls answered the door. Me. Hi, we're going to talk about the party you had the other night. Girl. You really want to talk about this at 6:30 a.m.? Cue my blinding rage masked by a slightly maniacal laugh. Me. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this an inconvenient time for you? You know what else was inconvenient? Being woken up all night and then trying to function at work with 3 hours of sleep. Judging by the look on the girl's face, it started slowly to connect in her brain just how stupid her comment was. She tried apologizing some more and saying it wouldn't happen again. Better not. I stopped her and basically said, next time, I'm not even getting out of bed, I'm calling the cops, and you can either deal with them or my pregnant, sleep-deprived, homicidal wife, and walked away. Hope they had a great Sunday. Moral of the story, don't piss people off who get up earlier than you. Sweet. One of the rare face-to-face, honest, petty revenge stories. And our last story. Karen thinks she can have my truck. A few years ago, I had a side hustle on my days off. My job had a rotational schedule where I worked 2 weeks, then got 2 weeks off. I made plenty of money at my job, but it didn't hurt to make a little extra cash. I was, in essence, a tour guide, but for the region I lived in. I didn't have any planned tours, but usually just took people to see neat places that they would not know about or think to go to. I was adamant about getting paid up front, and customers signed an agreement saying that made guarantees to protect my truck from messes or damage. Never had any issues, fortunately, and people always enjoyed the places I showed them. Except for one family. They seemed friendly enough when I was having them sign a contract and collecting my fee. I should mention my fee was $15 an hour plus $75, $35 if it was a half day. This covered a tank of fuel plus paid for my time shuttling you around. I also kept a cooler with free water and some limited snacks. You were paying for my knowledge of the region, plus knowledge about the area's history and such. Plenty of times I had customers tell me, I've never seen so much cool stuff in one day. You could maybe find something cheaper, but I didn't care. Once money changed hands with this family, the attitude changed. They began treating me like I was a second-class citizen, but I had their money, so I didn't care. I drove them around to some of the most beautiful scenery you can find. It's rare people are left speechless by these places, and never have I seen someone not be impressed. Until now. Every place I showed them, they seemed disappointed. One of the places was a ski town popular with a lot of celebrities. Not Aspen. And they were just like, it's okay. I can't deny I was a little offended by their indifference, but whatever. They were never outright rude during the day, but were surprised when I didn't buy lunch for them. As I said, you're paying for my time, food's on you. But when I got back to town and dropped them off at their hotel, it got interesting. The wife says, you can just park in the back and leave the keys at the desk. Tell them they're for the Smith family. Me. I'm sorry, what? Wife, this truck, just park it in the back. We might use it later. Me. This is my truck. I'm not leaving it here. That's not part of the deal. Wife. Oh, please. There's no way you can own a vehicle like this. It obviously belongs to your company. Me. I do this job self-employed. On many days off from my regular job. I assure you this is my truck. I can show you my name on the title. Wife. Young man, I had just turned 30. If you don't do as you're told, I will be forced to call your boss. Me. You mean me? I am my boss. Wife. Okay, smart butt, get your boss on the phone right now. I thought about just driving off. It's 8 p.m., but then I had a better idea. I called my supervisor at my real job. We'll call him Dan. Dan's been in the oil field for 14 years and can be quite the cusser. Good supervisor. He knew what I did on my days off and even sent people my way a few times. He answered and I just said, one of my clients is demanding to speak with my boss, so here she is, and handed her my phone. Wife sounding smug. I tried to tell your driver to leave the truck here so we could use it, but he lied and says he owns it. I could hear him yelling, are you effing stupid? I didn't discern anything else, but I know he gave her a good thrashing. She just walked to the window, handed me my phone, and said, he wants to talk to you, and then walked away. Boss. That fix your problem? Me. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Boss. Anytime, brother. It looks like the boss got the family fired. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.